Hello and welcome to For Flying Out Loud, the podcast that aims to inspire, empower and help all of our listeners to dream bigger. I'm Andrew Neofitu and I'm super happy to welcome you to another inspirational interview. If you enjoy the episodes and want them to keep coming, please consider showing your support and buy me a coffee. You can find a link in the episode description. Now, life has a way of taking us on unexpected journeys. When I first learnt to fly back in 1992, my solo adventures were modest, just short hops between familiar airfields. I never could have imagined where my journey might take me or how much determination, patience and courage would be required to chase bigger dreams. And that's the beauty of it. Sometimes the path we start on isn't the one we end up on, and the most rewarding adventures come when we're brave enough to follow where our passions lead. This episode of the For Flying Out Loud podcast is brought to you by Flight School Wingman. Have you ever dreamed of flying commercially but don't know where to start? Flight School Wingman's Academy Becoming a Commercial Pilot online course takes you step by step through what it really takes to become a pilot. From training pathways and costs to the skills that airlines are looking for, this course covers it all. Start your journey today. Visit flightschoolwingman.com/academy and take your first step toward the cockpit.
Having always known what I wanted to do as a career, I've never feared retiring from the sport I love. In fact, I thought it would be easy. The truth is, I've found choosing when to walk away from Edinburgh Rugby really difficult. Knowing I won't run out again at the damn Health Stadium is hard to even say. I'm proud to have been a one-club man and of my part in growing the club to a better place than it's ever been in. But now is the right time. And so in November, I'll be pursuing my childhood dream. The wee boy inside of me, hands on the glass, staring out the airport window, is really excited for the next chapter.
Now today, I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome a guest whose story is as bold and inspiring as they come. At the highest levels of professional sport, he stood not only as a world-class rugby player, but also as a captain representing his country. He earned 49 caps for Scotland, captained the national team at the 2019 Rugby World Cup in Japan, and was a respected figure on fields across the globe. But rather than hanging up his rugby boots and settling for a quiet life, he chose to chase another dream, one that takes him from scrumming down in packed stadiums to cruising thousands of feet above the earth. Having started flying years earlier, he made the courageous decision to retire from rugby, swap his rugby boots for flying boots and pursue a career as a commercial airline pilot. His story is testament to pursuing what you love, no matter where you start. Stuart McInally, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on For Flying Out Loud. Welcome, Stuart.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, brilliant. So listen, Stuart, before we get started on the flying side of things, I want to dive, of course, back into your rugby career, and I want to know where it all started from for you. You know, from that sort of this is quite fun to play rugby to this is now going to make a career for me. Where did that all start out for you?
Yeah, it started when I moved school. So I moved to a school in Edinburgh for high school that my brother was at, and I enjoyed playing football. Like a lot of rugby players, we started off playing football and we were all goalkeepers because that was the position we all got sort of shoehorned into that. I don't know if it's just less skillful or whatever, but then we found rugby, and I very much started playing rugby as a way to make friends at a new school, a social thing that a lot of, was quite popular activity, and I was big and I thought I'll give it a shot. Didn't particularly enjoy it. Actually stopped playing for a little bit and then got convinced to start playing again. And then, that was when I found my feet at high school, found my friendship group, and then obviously started playing rugby, realised I was good at it, which makes it even more enjoyable. And then, it was when I think I was sort of 15, so I was in fourth year at school up in Scotland, and fourth, fifth and sixth year all play in the first 15 together, like a combined team, but it's predominantly just the older guys in fifth and sixth year. But I found myself in fourth year playing for the first, and I kind of realised, okay, maybe there could be something here. And then it all just kind of went from there. Started getting recognised for international, like under 18 honours and things like that, and then it all just kind of fell into place, and I ended up having an amazing career, like 13 years professional rugby. So many good times to look back on.
Did you ever think that you wouldn't make it? You know, any times you thought actually this isn't going to happen, or did you just go, no, it's definitely working from day one?
Um, yeah, I don't want to come across arrogant. I'm not an arrogant person, but like I was very driven to achieve my dreams. We're obviously going to talk about aviation at some point, but
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a pilot, and then I was good at rugby, and it was kind of a decision I made. Just sort of leaving school, and it was, do I go to uni and pursue my aviation ambition? I was accepted into university in Ireland to study aerospace engineering, so I was going to go and do that, and then try and find my way onto one of these programs to become an airline pilot, or pursue a career in rugby. I realised that I could do both, but I had to probably do rugby first because I don't think I could take up rugby at 35 and expect to have a career out of it. So decided just to go all in with it. I remember being hugely inspired by Jason White, Scotland captain, back in 2006, lifting the Calcutta Cup against England.
Yeah.
And I remember being there and being inspired, thinking I'd love to do that. And I kind of just gave my, the next 13 years of my life to that pursuit of trying to represent my country.
Incredible. Good job you didn't do the aerospace engineering degree. I did that. It was...
Oh, did you?
Thoroughly,
was it?
Thoroughly miserable. I remember,
Okay.
I was diving into, I was clearing out the garage as you do the other week, and dived into some university stuff, and I found some notes, and there was this one equation maths equation that was basically 3 pages long, and it was my writing, but it looked like some sort of weird hieroglyphics that I discovered from about 1500 BC.
Sounds like I made the right decision.
You did.
Good.
You mentioned being inspired there, but is there anyone that believed in you, perhaps even before you knew that it was going to go the way that it ended up going?
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I always had the support of my parents. My parents are never, they're not into rugby at all. They didn't know anything about it. No one in my family is from a rugby background, although my dad tells me he was a really good player, but I don't really believe him. The main person that jumps to my mind is probably my first age grade coach, a guy called Grant McKelvey, who he used to spend time coming to my school, and in the free periods that I had, he would do skill work with me on the pitch. So when all my mates were in the bun room having bacon rolls, I was rugby kit on down on the pitch in the wind and rain, practicing my tackle technique. And I remember, when you're young, you just want to hang out with your mates, but
Yeah.
he was giving up his time for me, and I was always so grateful. And he would, I had this incredible support from him, that he would video my games, and he was connected to Scottish Rugby. So he'd video my school games and then come in and go through them with like a fine tooth comb with me and identify areas that needed to be better. And then I saw myself get better at them. And I remember, thinking that's pretty cool. And what's obvious now wasn't back then, is if you identify something and work hard at it, you get better at it. And I really, really loved that journey. And I still love that journey of working hard and getting better.
Yeah, incredible. It's so important, I think, isn't it, to have that inspiration, or at least somebody who supports you. It's not impossible if you don't have that. But I remember being at school. Obviously, we're going to dive into the flying side of things, and being told by teachers, not everybody gets to achieve their dream. I'm like, well, I'm sure they don't, but why would you say that to me? And then I remember being at university and a flying instructor saying, "Oh, mate, you want to give up the dream? You're just not good enough." And I'm just thinking how damaging that can be, particularly to young people,
Really really damaging. Like, I think it's like, why not chase your dream? Like, I just don't, It doesn't ever sit right with me that you should ever tell anyone not to. Because ultimately, like, even if you chase something and you don't make it, you'll learn a lot about life skills, or you'll build up some resilience, and
That's right.
You'll undoubtedly be in a better place. Like, nothing great ever comes from sitting in a comfort zone, and you learn that in pro sport, but you learn that anywhere in life. And I encourage everyone to chase their dreams. It's so important.
Brilliant. Great to hear that from someone so inspirational. Thanks, Stuart. Was there any point ever where perhaps you started playing out and you thought, I'm not going to make it, anything like that?
In rugby?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was numerous setbacks I had in my career, which is so common in rugby. And I was lucky, surrounded by mentors everywhere in rugby. So the older guys who, you might get dropped, you play badly, get dropped, and you think it's the end of the world, and then
Yeah.
you've got the Scotland captain come up and saying, "Oh, I've been dropped loads. Don't worry about it." So we'd speak about support and mentors and how important they are. But yeah, there was a time, sort of 2013, where I'd sort of been in and out the Scotland squad, but I hadn't made my first cap yet, so I hadn't played. And then I got asked to move position in rugby, which I got asked to move from back row to hooker. So for those that know rugby, it's quite a big change. For those that don't, it wasn't something that I could have just do overnight. It was going to take years of retraining, effectively learning some really key skills. And yeah, it was tough because that came from the Scotland coach at the time. So I was thinking, right, the one guy I'm desperate to improve doesn't think I can. Desperate to impress doesn't think I can make it. So that was tough. But ultimately, that ended up making me the kind of person and player I was. I went through this huge change and understood about hard work and how change can be really positive if you approach it right and you have the right support. But yeah, there's been loads of times, but I do think rugby is great for building resilience because you're never going to play well every week. You're never going to be every coach's favorite player. But there's always there's games every Saturday, so you always have a chance to impress. So it's not like you're always waiting a year to sit another exam or anything like that. It's how the people that work the hardest and can perform under pressure generally make it.
I guess the thing that I've never really experienced that you have is that pressure and that weight of so many people seeing you as well. So any failures I had along my flying career were based on me and an instructor and perhaps a couple of flying buddies that saw me fail something. But you've got tens of thousands of people, so very visible. Not necessarily failure every time, but very visible challenges. If you've done something you didn't play as well as you thought you could have done, everyone's seen it. So that must be quite hard to reconcile, I guess, in your head.
Yeah, and it's the one area that you get asked about a lot from like businesses when you speak to them is about dealing with pressure. You learn how to deal with it, and you learn that there's only so much you can do to perform well. When I always tell people, when you're under pressure, you fall to the level of your training and your preparation, and if you haven't got a solid foundation of preparation and training there, that's when you see people crumble. So that's when you see your international players or your players playing for a club, if they miss a tackle, drop a ball, if they don't have a process to sort of ground themselves again and go back to what are actually my techniques for this skill. If they don't have that, then that's when it all falls apart. So you realize, and I learned it, I used to call it stacking. So sort of had to stack the odds in my favor as much as I could through the week in terms of my skill work.
Yeah.
And I'd look at I'd actually have a book through the week, and I'd have all like these boxes that I'd ticked effectively. So it'd be my throwing sessions when I was playing hooker, tackle extras, nutrition, recovery, analysis, and I just have all these boxes in my notebook, and I'd just be full of ticks because I would tick them off throughout the week, and that would be my sort of preparation. And I would always look at it just before going out to play for Scotland, and I would just look at it and be like, there's nothing more that I could have done to play well today, and whatever happens I have to be okay with. And it worked remarkably well. It's no surprise really looking back at it, I prepared really well, and most of the time I played well, and the times you don't play well, you can accept it because you're not regretting anything.
We're going to dive into the flying side a lot more, but it's just listening to you, there's so many parallels between elite sport by the sounds of it and the career that you're entering now and everything that I did. Similarly, going through fast jet training, I had a little book, I'd write down my debrief notes, I go, what have I done, what do I need to prepare? I think at this day and age, I don't know, because I'm 50 years old, I don't know how teenagers are preparing for stuff these days, but there's still no shortcuts to performing well. You've got to work hard, whether it's at the highest levels of rugby or someone like Roger Federer in tennis. And, people didn't just get to the top there by not taking that time to prepare and learn some techniques and, You call it, what did you call it there? Having a little box or check boxes.
Yeah,
You're
stacking. So
stacking,
just
stacking.
I like to stack the odds in my favor, and I just kind
Yeah,
of think about them as little blocks I stack, and then
yeah.
at the end of the week I can look back on it and be proud of it.
That's a great visualization technique as well, which must have
Mm.
really helped. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
What's
it
the
does.
sort of biggest gap, Stuart, for me as a someone who watches rugby? I wouldn't profess to be the biggest fanatic ever, but I love it when I go and see a game. Off to watch the Army Navy in May with my father-in-law.
Great.
But what's the biggest gap between how you imagined elite rugby and how it actually felt?
Um, I think, and it's part of what made me who I am, is that I actually thought it would be easier. So
Yeah,
my perception of getting a professional contract was quite hard. So I worked really hard at school through my 18, 19, 20 to actually get my foot in the door of professional rugby. I remember when I signed my first professional contract, looking back, definitely took my foot off the gas because I thought, I'm in, I've made it, I'm a full-time professional, and the environment will take care of this for me,
right.
which was wrong. And I'm not a bad trainer. I work really hard, but I just made the false perception that I'm a pro now. So if I turn up and you get given a schedule and you go to the gym and you do your gym sessions and then I can just go home and play Call of Duty and eat what I want. I didn't realize that it's actually quite hard to achieve what I wanted to achieve. So I always wanted to captain Scotland. Like, that was my biggest dream, and that was what I gave my career to. I realized early on that was like an exceptional goal, and that
Yeah,
my behaviors weren't really exceptional at the time. I kind of had average to good behaviors. Like, I always worked hard in the gym, I always trained hard, but that was kind of where it stopped. So I learned, and I actually plateaued my career when I was like sort of 22, 23, and I had to sort of look at myself, and that's when I sort of realized this. I actually went on a leadership course, and this sort of was put to me, that perhaps my behaviors weren't matching my ambitions. So then I did an exercise about, what are the behaviors of a Scotland captain? What does that actually look like? And I remember
right.
thinking, okay, well, he's probably got to be one of the hardest workers in the team. And there's certain traits about the way he plays. He's got to be a dominant tackler. He's got to be accurate. He's got to be reliable. He's got to speak well. So I started working on these things.
Great.
And that's when I realized this is really tough. Like, it's hard. There's nothing, like you've mentioned, there's no shortcuts to it. If you have a big dream, you have to make a plan. You have to work really hard. You have to actually do the plan and actually work really hard. But see, doing it is so worth it when you make it, isn't it? Like, and when you achieve your dream. And I still remember standing at the front of the tunnel leading out Scotland for the first time and just being so proud and thinking all the hard work was worth it.
What an incredible moment that must have been. And I'm just going to coin a phrase there from you now, Stu. It's going to be a new line for me. Work the plan, do the plan. That's it.
Yeah.
You can
Actually,
have
I've got
that.
something written down here, and it says, make a plan, identify the behaviors, and actually do the work. And that's the last one is what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people make a plan and have ambitions, and they think, oh yeah, I really want to do that, but do they actually do it? And if you can actually do it for a week, a month, a year, 5 years, like, that's when you start seeing the differences. And it's the same in anything. Like, if you're in a diet, you're trying to lose weight, anyone can diet for a week, but can you do it for 5 years straight? That's when you really start seeing the benefits.
And
It's a
talking
nutrition
about
podcast now.
it's well, we definitely want to dive into that because I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there who want to know how you stayed so fit and well and continue to stay fit and well after professional rugby. But that whole leadership discussion, I think, is really interesting because having gone through military training, we were all sort of forced, well, not forced, it's just part of the training to do leadership training. It was about 12, 18 months, something like that in the Royal Navy. And it's something that I still carry with me now into civilian life for the last 20 years. But there'll be oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes people in leadership positions, but they're actually not very good at it. And I thought what you said there was really interesting about being the hardest working member of the team. And you're still a part of the team. And I think a lot of people that are in these leadership positions forget that. You know better than anyone else in the team. You're just working harder, setting the example, being that role model, and actually really still valuing your team members. And not everybody has a natural aptitude for that, including me. but working really hard at doing it and thinking about what is it that these team members really need from me. And did you? I know you did a lot of work into it, but was it ultimately something that you enjoyed? In 2019 when you captained your team in the Rugby World Cup, was that something that you felt, right, I'm ready, this is natural, or did you still have any sort of imposter syndrome, anything like that going on?
I definitely had imposter syndrome. And I think it's I definitely I wanted to do it as well. Like, it's not that I didn't want to do it, but
Yeah,
definitely there's always part of you that maybe thinks, Christ, this is a big role. And that's when you just have to. I sort of made the mistake initially when I was captain, was trying to lead how people before me had led, because some of them were still in the team. So I was very,
right.
respectful of them, and thinking, well, they led that way, I'll lead this way. And then you realize pretty quick you have to do it your own way, because you have to be authentic to yourself. The things I learned about leadership from professional sport is that you have to lead in a way that's authentic to you. So a way that's authentic to one person might be the emotional speech before a game, where you can really motivate and find an extra 1 or 2% in your team. That was never my strength. My strength was more around being calm under pressure, and being able to be quite level-headed with things. So I would, initially, maybe our early stages of my time as a leader, I would try and do this motivational speech because I thought that was what a leader should do. But
Right.
because it's not authentic, I'm saying it, I'm not really believing what I'm saying, and yet you really come across as, that was a bit crap. I mean, when you look back on it, the more you learn as a leader, you actually look around and you've got so many amazing people around you, and
Right.
you just pull in a favor from someone, and you just say, oh, look, actually, do you mind speaking before we go out? You speak so well, I need you to help me lead today. And people love that. People love, like, people grow a few extra inches when you bring them into your circle. And
Right.
leadership can also often be seen as a weakness to bring other people in, and it's a huge strength, and it's the most sort of longevity way to do it. It's not the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's
100%.
the people that try and do it all themselves, they burn out, and the times that I've burned out is because I've taken too much on myself.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. I love being in that position of leadership when I've had it in my life. But again, I don't know what my unique leadership style is, but I guess it's just being on a level with people as much as I can be. I guess when you've got formal rank structures like the military, there's certain lines have to be drawn, but they could be pretty blurry, to be honest with you. And just getting on with people and just being down to earth. And I think when you are respected by people, you get so much out of them, and
Yeah.
that means just getting them doing the work for you. But
Hmm.
doing it in a way where you're really part of that team. I think that sounds like you had an excellent leadership style, if I may say so, Stuart.
Yeah.
How does it feel carrying the weight? Obviously, you've got the weight of the team, and you're leading the team. But then you walk out to the stadium. I don't know what the biggest crowd was that you ever played for in something like the World Cup. Maybe 50, 60,000 people, maybe more than
Well,
that.
Twickenham, England's got about 80,000, I think. So
Yeah,
quite
that's
a
gonna
lot.
be wow.
Yeah.
So you've not just got the team pressure, you've got all these fans, you've got the rivals, obviously,
Hmm.
you've got the media. How do you go about carrying the expectations of so many people like that are not just your teammates?
It definitely, you have to find a way to make it a positive, otherwise it becomes a burden. So
Right.
we had a thing at Scotland when I was there, and it was all about inspiring the nation. So actually welcoming them into our circle and being like, we're doing it
Right.
for them. Like, we want to inspire them by winning and playing really good rugby, and the kind of rugby that represents the Scottish people, like with loads of fight, loads of
Yeah.
creativity. So you have to welcome in. As soon as you start seeing it as a burden, then you're trying to block out things that you're never going to be able to block out. Like, try walking out in front of 80,000 people at Twickenham, England fans shouting this, that, and the other. Barely hearing the Scotland fans, but just welcoming it and seeing it as a good kind of pressure. Like, pressure, I always remind myself that I'm choosing to do this. I'm choosing to be here to walk out and play rugby for my country.
Yeah.
And what an honour that is. And I know that loads of people would have swapped with me if they could. So toughen up and get on with it. I say to myself a couple of times. But it's funny as well. Like, you'll speak to any sports person, whether that's in the Olympics or rugby, football, as soon as the first whistle goes, it's like a freedom.
Yeah.
You know, you can be so nervous. I guess the same way in flying, you know, your skills test, you can be really nervous up until you start the engine and then you're off and it doesn't matter. You're just doing another flight. It's the same playing professional sport. When that referee blows the first whistle, it's like a pressure release valve goes,
Right.
and you can just play, and as long as you've done the prep, you revert to the level you're training, and you're saying, I've done this 1,000 times, and you're generally not aware of the crowd, not unless it's a really, really tense moment, and you know, you've maybe got to throw a line out to win the game, which I've had a couple of times, but
no pressure, nobody's watching.
Yeah, I know. Just a couple of million around the globe as well. But yeah, it's funny. You don't really think about it, and then it's more after the game. If you've had a big win, you might be on your phone, and you might just be on social media, and you'll see, you know, the whole country going nuts after a good win, and that's when you realise, well, we did that. That was wicked.
Incredible. I can't imagine what that's like walking out in front of so many people. There's various jobs in my life that I would like to do. You know, if you had your sort of dream list of where you'd be number one, to, you know, in an ideal world. So number one for me would be lead guitarist of a massive rock band. Now I should state I don't play guitar. So if there was a god up there, I'd probably say, for Pete's sake, Andrew, start playing the guitar then if you want to actually be a lead guitarist of a massive rock band. But just have that moment. I don't want to be the lead singer. I just want to be that person that has that 80,000 people just cheering at that moment when you do guitar solo. And that must be exactly what it's like when you score a try, or you won the game. That feeling must be incredible.
You get the real extremes of it. So you get the real highs of, like you say, I remember I scored a try against France one year, 2020. It was actually just before lockdown. And I'd had a pretty rough year the year before with form, and I managed to come back and sort of score the winning try against France. And the elation, you know, I stood up, threw the ball into the crowd, and that feeling will just live with me, you know, forever. What doesn't get spoken about enough is it's really quite tough as well, like career as a professional sport, and especially if you're ambitious. So I was desperate to play for and captain Scotland. Like, ultimately I was captain for a little bit and then I wasn't. So that was really tough. I played for Scotland, started, I was one of the first names on the team sheet, and then I wasn't because someone else was playing better than me, or I'd been injured and I was struggling to get back into the team. Right. That's really hard. There's numerous stories of this, and I fully experienced this as well. When you're saying you'd love to experience what I do, I would be on the bus to a game and I would see all the fans just going to the game, having a couple of pints, and I remember thinking, I would love to be where they are right now. No pressure, no nerves, because I'm on that bus and I'm feeling sick. You know, I'm so nervous. I've got like all the pressure you spoke about. Even though I've done all the preparation, I know I'm ready to go, I'm still very nervous. And I remember Sam Warburton, you know, Lions great, Wales captain of years gone by. He used to say on the way, he'd be on the bus to you know, games for his country, and he'd see like bin men, and he'd wish that he could just swap jobs with them, right? Because they are just, you know, in his eyes, no stress. And that's the side of sport people don't talk about enough, is that it's actually it's high pressure, and a lot of your time you're dealing with anxiety and things like that. And that's why the games are so good, because the games are like we spoke about, the pressure release valve of just getting to play. But yeah, there's a whole nother story on all that. But ultimately, it was a great career. I wouldn't change it for anything, because it shaped who I am. It's
funny you talk about how people perceive things. I remember being a teenager watching the first Top Gun, and I don't mind sharing. I was like, I don't know, 13. How old would I be? 1986? No, it'd have been 11. And I remember being in tears, thinking, I'm never going to do that. I remember watching these fighter jets going, I'm never going to do that. And then I got to do it, right? So I remember, I'm trying to think if there were any flights, particularly in the Sea Harrier, where I really enjoyed the moment of flying the aeroplane. Mm-hmm. And if there weren't that many, because most of the time I was at the absolute maximum of my capacity. I mean, there were pilots out there that were so much better than me. You know, they probably had oodles of spare capacity left, but I didn't. I was working so hard. It was only afterwards, sat down and went, oh, it's actually pretty cool doing air combat against F-15 today. But, you know, thinking about it, but no one else, no one else experiences it. But that moment, that build-up, I'm not sure that I ever felt that I really enjoyed it. I don't know if that resonates with you. And
Massively,
yeah,
massively resonates with me. The best part of the week was after a game, after a win, and you were sat in the change room and you were having a beer, and you were just chatting with your mates,
yeah,
and you were, the game has just gone by, so you're not nervous about that game anymore. The next game's 7 days away, so you're
yeah,
not really thinking about the next game yet, and you just get a chance to like just relax and just let your hair down for 24 hours, because before you know it, you could have the biggest win, biggest that had some huge wins, some huge moments, but that on a Saturday, come Monday morning, you're
yeah.
focused on the next game, and that game's gone. And I guess it's the same with maybe some of your flights back then. Is they're high pressure. When they're done, it's like, okay, that was amazing, but now there's another flight, or now there's another game of rugby we have to
Right,
win, and
yeah.
and this next game is only, there's no point winning the game we've just won if we don't win this one, so this
Right.
one's even more important now. And it's funny, it's hard to enjoy it
Yeah,
really in the moment. It's one thing I wish I could have gone back.
I
If I
know.
go back again,
So true.
I wish I could have soaked it in a bit more, but saying that, I do feel that's part of why I was successful, was because I put pressure on myself to perform well, and I made sure that enjoyment didn't get in the way of my diligence to perform well. Rightly or wrongly, that's just the way I was.
At least you're of the age, Stuart, where there's lots of footage of you, video footage, games played. You can go back and watch it and reminisce a little bit, and you've always got that. I've got some sort of grainy photograph that I took on a, you know what I mean? But a lot of people listening to this won't even know what a normal camera is with film. They're like, "What do you mean film?" They'll be like, "I've got it on my iPhone."
Nah, they won't have a clue.
Well, it must have been so many highs, but it was a lowest sort of low that you could think of that perhaps nobody else witnessed or saw, that you can think of.
I think one of the biggest disappointments for me was I picked up an injury in 2021. So I captained Scotland, I'd achieved that goal. The only other thing I would have loved to have done was to play for the British Lions,
Right.
which is a team made up of the 4 countries that play in the UK, and it's once every 4 years, so it's kind of a timing thing. It rewards people who are consistent over 4 years, but also if you have a really good 1 year, you can make it. And it was 2020. I kind of decided that I was going to go for it because it was 2021. Lockdown happened. I invested in a gym, got a gym in the house, in the garage, converted it into like a really state-of-the-art gym. Put all my effort, because the tour was to South Africa, so I was like, well, I'm gonna probably want to put on a bit of muscle if I want to compete with these boys.
I've been eating steak for like 24 hours a day.
Waking up at 2 a.m, having a protein shake sometimes. But like just trying to do what I could to improve and give myself the best chance to play for the Lions. And I came back, played quite well at the end of 2020 when the sort of game started again, and then in 2021 I picked up an injury in the gym, really freak injury, which kept me out for 4 months. And looking back, it was probably an area that I'd been neglecting a little bit in my training, so I just kicked myself that I hadn't done enough work on it. And it was like out for 4 months, no hope of coming back before that with these injuries. So really disappointing, because that was then the Six Nations, which runs from February and March, which is the biggest rugby tournament in the world, and that's where the Lions gets picked from. So I was missing all that, and unfortunately, I came back after and played a couple of games, but they don't watch Edinburgh versus Zebra or whoever we were playing. They wanted to see who performed well. Scotland, England, Scotland, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and I hadn't played in any of those games. So the Lions squad, I remember watching that through sort of gritted teeth and being a bit gutted that I wasn't even in the frame for it, because I really believed if I'd been fit and had a chance, I would have had a chance of going, which would have been amazing. So that was really tough, because like we sort of spoke about before, it's the people that set ambitious goals, they have the opportunity to achieve them, which is brilliant. They also have an opportunity to not achieve them, and that can be really tough. And that's why it's sometimes safer for people not to chase big dreams, isn't it? Because they can't ever fail. However, I still was, I was a bigger athlete. I was a better athlete because I chased this dream, and just because I'd fallen short of that goal, I still was in a better spot to perform for my club and country as well. So, probably that was quite tough, and I look back on that with a bit of annoyance, but Yeah, so be it.
That must have been really tough, especially on the back of the 2019 World Cup, because you've come straight out of that incredible
Yes.
experience captaining your team to then have
Hmm.
that injury. I can imagine how that was psychologically really tough. What
Yeah.
would you say, sort of finish this episode of your life, incredible episode in rugby, was the moment that shaped you the most as a person from your rugby career?
Um, there's sort of one story I always go back to when I was 20, where there was a conversation we had with it was a team I was part of, and I got asked in a meeting. They said, "Stuart, who's your biggest competition?" And I said, I looked around and there was some other chap in my position who I was competing for the jersey with, and I said, "Oh, it's got to be Michael, really quality player, and he's probably my biggest competition." And the coach just said, "No, you're wrong. Your biggest competition is yourself. It's you versus you in your life, and you have to try and become the best version that you can be. Because if you only ever try and be better than the person next to you, then that's all you're ever going to be
Yeah,
better than. Whereas
so true.
you might have a bit of potential in you that could make you the best in the world. Like, you got to try and be that." He's not saying that's what I had, but the model was around you versus you. So the way I approached a lot of my career, especially sort of 25 onwards, when I really understood the benefit of it, was if the best version of me every day was, coming in early to stretch for the gym, do my gym, push myself in every session, out on the running pitch, push myself, try and be the best trainer, cover the most meters, stay after training, do my extras, do my recovery, eat really well, get a good night's sleep. Like, if that's the best version I could be every single day, then how close could I get to that every day? And that was what I always strive for. And I tell this to people, and I say, you're not going to do it every day, because some days you wake up and you just can't be bothered, and it's really tough. And you have to allow yourselves to have those days, because we're human. But if you can do it more than you don't do it, you'll do better than most. And that's definitely one thing that allowed me to achieve what I achieved, was because I was just prepared to squeeze every drop out of whatever I could achieve. And I was desperate to do that. And that's why I look back at my career quite fondly, because I do believe I squeezed every drop out of it, which I'm really proud of.
Brilliant. And I think it's so important. I don't think I've ever compared myself to anybody else. I might have looked at people and gone,
Yeah.
"Wow, they've done incredibly well there," or "I don't like the way they're doing that very much." But I'm not saying I don't take the best bits from other people, because I think there's certain things you can go, I really admired the way that that person spoke to those people just then, and the
Yeah.
way that it really got everyone, inspired, or whatever it was. And I might think, I could do that, but I think you're absolutely right. If I think about it, partly for me it was because I was a bit of a loner, I think, at school, so I was bullied quite badly. So I was laughing about it now. It wasn't funny at the time. If anyone's listening to it out there and anyone's been bullied, then just stay strong, I would say. But that led me to being a bit of a loner, and almost like you say, being the only person I was in competition with, but then was myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really powerful mindset, actually.
You're dead right about taking bits you like from other people as well. I do that my whole rugby career.
Mm.
Whether it was leadership things, I like the way that he phrased that or dealt with that tough
Yeah.
time. Or even, like, I remember coming to the gym one time, and in club rugby, you'd come down in the morning and you do your weigh in, because everyone gets weighed. Probably can't do that in every job, can you? Imagine putting someone on the scales start of every Monday morning. But we would always get weighed, and you do your sort of profile testing, and I would
Not
always
heavy
make sure
enough.
I came in. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
You'd get told off if you were too light. You'd be setting up for a second breakfast. But it was funny, because I would come in and I would say 7:30, and I'd be like, right, I'm going to get there 7:30 or 7:25, because I want to be great and I want to play for Scotland. I'm going to make sure I'm on time. And I would get in the gym, and I'd be like, brilliant, there's not many other people here. Who's here before me? And I would look, and it would be all the internationals were there, and they weren't weighing in. They were on the watt bike, or they were doing extra gym work. And I remember thinking, that's what it takes. Like, so, it's just finding, okay, that's what so, like, my biggest sort of inspiration when I played, Ross Ford, who was a Scotland hooker at the time, and he was ultimately the jerseys that I wanted. He had it. I remember thinking, he works so hard, like that's what you have to do. So then I started coming in early, and people started seeing me doing it, and
Yeah.
yeah, you sort of constantly just taking bits you like from everyone, and then making the best version of yourself.
Yeah. Brilliant. Um, Moving forward, then, Stuart, around the end of 2023, I think you said it was, you decided to follow this long-held ambition to become a commercial pilot. I think you'd done a bit of flying, hadn't you? Sort of PPL flying, but about 10 years previous to
Yeah,
that.
2016, I got my PPL.
Right. But obviously, right in the throes of all of this professional rugby. But you've made the decision now, 2023. That's it. I'm retiring from professional rugby. What did it really feel like walking away from professional rugby the day after that happened?
What did it feel like? It felt, I knew it was coming, so I decided back in I decided 3 years before I signed my contract in 2020, and it was a 3-year deal, and I sort of knew this would be the last one because I did want to have a good career in the aviation world as well. So and I'd achieved everything I wanted in rugby, so it was kind of a bit like I can give it my all for 3 years, but then after 3 years, I'm gonna pursue my next dream. So it actually made me really excited to finish. So I transitioned out of rugby after the Rugby World Cup in 2023, and I remember the next day I'd bought my ground school ATPL's work, and I was so excited to do it. Which I think a lot of people, you hear horror stories of ATPLs and how horrible they are. Actually, I loved it. I loved the challenge of it. I loved downloading the material and learning and booking my exams. And I guess that, you know, comes back to my sort of mindset from elite sport, but also just how desperate I was to do this and achieve this goal of becoming an airline pilot. So yeah, if I'm honest, it actually felt really, really good. And it's probably, I didn't miss rugby at all at the start because I'd be sat in the hotel around the corner from me. I can't work from home, so I'd be in the fridge every 2 seconds. So I had to get out of the house. And we'd be sitting by the fire, studying away for whatever, meteorology or whatever I was studying. I look outside and it'd be chucking with rain up here in Scotland, and thinking, I'm glad I'm not training outside today. Don't miss rugby at all. Whereas now, like, I mean, I miss it a lot. Not that I would want to go back. I say this to people that I'm now able to say I do miss it, but I don't want to go back. Like, I'm really excited for the future. But yeah, seeing, like, for example, the Six Nations is on just
Yeah.
now, and it definitely makes me a little bit jealous, knowing how the boys feel during the game
Yeah.
and after the game. So sorry, I've divulged a bit there. I wasn't even sure what we were talking about. I was just started rambling.
No, it's just what it felt like the day after. It's funny though, I do look back
Yes.
at.
Yeah.
I've got mates flying things like F-35 now, F-22, all those sorts of cool fighter jets. I'm like, God, I'd love to do it. But then I think to myself, God, do you remember what a pain it was sometimes? I remember how stressful that was sometimes. I remember
Mm.
how hard work it was sometimes. And actually, quite like going and flying my glider now. Just to take
Yeah.
out a day out of
I see that. Yeah.
floating around the skies. Why aviation then? Why this career as a pilot, Stuart? What has it been for you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know where it's come from. It's just always something I've known I've had to do. I remember I got asked about this, and I'm trying to think back to early memories. I remember going to the airport for holidays and being more excited to go to the airport than
Yeah,
actually go on the holiday. I remember my dad getting a flying lesson for a present from out of Edinburgh back when they had a flying club. I remember backseating it. I can tell you where I was sat. I could tell you, how the visuals looked out the back window. I remember being sort of loving it, no nerves whatsoever. And just like my uncle, he's a pilot. He owns a gyrocopter company, and
they're
he
mad
took me
things, aren't they?
flying
Gyrocopters.
gyrocopters.
Have you flown
Yeah,
in one?
I have. Yeah,
Oh my goodness, how was
they're
that?
cool. It was wicked. Yeah, I loved it. It's down in York. It's the he owned a bunch of them down there, and like a flight school, and yeah, it was cool. So just anything aviation related, but ultimately, I love the idea of like takeoffs and landings, and like the visual of the runway and things like that. That's when I sort of knew it was planes, not helicopters, that I wanted
Yeah.
to do, and ultimately commercial aviation just was something I was really passionate about. So initially, I didn't think I'd be able to do it well because the lifestyle of being away from home I had ambitions to have a young family, which I'm now lucky enough to have, 3 beautiful boys. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I want to be away in hotels or away all the time. But then I discovered there's other options, the short hauls and the ones that do get you home every night. So that's when I realized, okay, this can still be a realistic dream. And it was actually, if we go back to when I changed position in rugby, it was actually a discussion I had around with sort of a few mentors I had back then, was, if this doesn't work, what am I doing? I'm going to become a pilot. And that's actually when I started doing my PPL. So like I always had this running in the background, so that when the decision came to transition out of rugby, it was with purpose, and it was on my terms. So yeah, go back, where did it come from? Just, like a lot of people probably, it's just, they just know it's something they have to do. And it excites them. I love flying. I love taking people. I love sharing the experience of my hour building. Look back at that time really fondly, and hugely excited for a career in the airline world.
How much of your identity was wrapped up in, or maybe still is wrapped up in, being a rugby player? Now you're moving into this sort of new identity of being a commercial airline pilot.
Yeah, I was very determined not to be Stuart the rugby player, which is why, tongue in cheek, I changed my Instagram years ago to Stuart the pilot, because I was determined not to be defined as a rugby player. Now I'm a pilot, I might change it again. I might change it to something else, but
like always that one that calls himself a pilot. Yeah, how do you know someone's a pilot? Because
check his Instagram handle. I was determined not to, be someone who was known as a rugby player, or I was obviously going to be known as a rugby player, but I didn't want it to define me. I wanted to be defined by the way I handle myself and my behaviours and the way I treat people. And obviously in the public eye, I'm Stuart the rugby player, but away from that, I was someone who had a huge desire to become an airline pilot. So, and I did it as a way as well to try and inspire my teammates to start thinking about their next careers as well, because not enough of them do, unfortunately. And no matter how much I tell people to think about their next careers, people love just being all in with sport and giving it everything, which I do totally get as well, because some people like to be all in with it and give them the best chance to perform. But I just have to do it, and
no regrets. How did it feel going from sort of world class, elite athlete to student, starting again at the bottom?
It was quite nice initially, not having the, again, train so hard to stay at the top level of elite sport. You have to train so hard, and running sessions, and you're always pushing yourself in the gym. So it was quite nice just to go into the gym and do a half-an-hour session and do the sort of exercises that I want. And then, do I want to do any more? Nah, I just call it a day. Go upstairs and get a toasty. The mindset totally changed. So I quite enjoyed that, but I've managed to sort of get back into a little bit of my good habits now, because I realise that's just part of who I am. Like, I do things properly, and although I maybe don't train at the same intensity I used to, I still enjoy my training. I still enjoy staying fit, and I know that's going to be important going forward.
Make me feel guilty now. I've just started hitting the gym again. I've taken my own off for fitness, so I sit here all the time working on a business. And then I was like, and actually I've started back in the gym again, which I didn't do. I mean, not to your level, near it. But like my weekly session be like your 30-minute warm up, But I am feeling better for going and getting some exercise again, particularly as I get a bit older. I think that is important, isn't it?
Hugely.
What do you feel the biggest sort of pressure, Stuart, if you were to go, right, I could put my jersey back on, go and captain my team for Scotland, or becoming an airline pilot, sitting in that cockpit for the first time, knowing that the buck stops with you, your first solo flight. What sort of feels a bigger pressure, do you think?
I think I was associated pressure to letting people down. So in team sports, I found that quite a burden. Not a burden, well, maybe a little bit. But that would always fuel my preparation, because I really didn't want to let people down. And it's one thing I've actually really enjoyed about the process of learning to fly, was that it was all on me. And as much as I love the team sports and the camaraderie, and someone's always there for you if you're ever having a tough time, that's all amazing. But you're always on the pitch, you're relying on other people to do their job for you to win. Like, I could go and I could perform my game flawlessly, which I almost never did, but I could do that, and we could still go on and lose the game because other members of the team haven't performed as well. So that was always the sort of the downside to team sports. So that's why I actually really enjoyed. I don't feel any pressure with flying. Like I feel excited, and knowing that it's like what you put in, you get out to a certain level. Certainly more so in flying than rugby, because it's on you.
Yeah, 100%. Why do you think you've obviously made this transition? You spoke about, maybe some other colleagues of yours from rugby not thinking about that transition as much, maybe as early as they could do, or not fully enough. What do you think people that are transitioning get wrong when starting out again? Or was there anything you think you could have done differently starting out
Yeah,
again?
it's all kind of gone to plan for me, because I had a plan,
Yeah,
and that's probably where people go wrong, is because they don't have a plan. They transition out of sport, and I see a lot of people stumble into jobs,
right,
and they say, "Oh, I'll give this a shot, see if I like it," and they're not really fulfilled by it. They'll do something
right,
else, and they're not really fulfilled by it. And maybe they do, maybe they find something they love and they get lucky. But the pitfalls of that, and of a lot of things, is if you just fail to make any sort of plan around it. If you just
right.
expect someone to come up to you at the end of your rugby career and say, "Oh, we'll offer you a job and we'll pay you a great salary straight away because you're a rugby player." Like, rugby's nice, right? But realistically,
It's got a
unless
shelf
you're like
life, hasn't it? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, it has, absolutely does. And it's funny, like I never had to sort of use LinkedIn and meet people for coffees, and it gets you in the room, rugby, but ultimately no one's going to offer you a job unless you can add commercial value to them. So
correct. Yeah,
these people identify you, and they meet you for a coffee and say, "Oh, we might have you." I've heard stories of that, but then nothing really comes of it. What rugby does give you, though, is it gives you the life experience to express yourself in these interviews, which I obviously ended up doing after rugby in the sort of aviation stuff. But yeah, it's rugby's always quite nice, but the benefit of it isn't actually the fact you're a rugby player. It's because of the life experience you've got.
yeah,
So actually, and we have so much of it. And it wasn't until I started preparing for interviews and writing stuff down, I've actually got quite a lot of stuff, because you don't realize it when you're in it day to day, because it's just part of who you are. It's part of who I was, the hard work, the understanding that you have to do extra, the like meticulous preparation. Like, what does preparation actually look like
right.
when you're preparing to play international rugby? It looks really, really different to someone who's maybe not had that experience of doing it under that sort of pressure. So actually learning a bit about yourself and what your skills are, what you can offer. But that takes time. So I encourage people who are transitioning, like, take time and take weeks to think about it, and who you are, what you've learned, all the things that you can do naturally because of who you are, because of
Right.
what sports brought you, and how you can add value to another company.
So, I mean, we've spoken about so much there, haven't we? We've got obviously leadership from your time as captain. We've got teamwork, resilience, your
Mm.
sort of professional standards and everything that you've done. Already, we're starting to build so many of these, what I call competencies, and we'll chat a bit more about that shortly. But yeah, you've got loads of stuff. And in fact, a lot of younger people looking to get into aviation careers, one of the things I'd say to them, particularly if they're very young, maybe school leavers, do go and get involved as many activities as you can.
Mm.
That could be working in a coffee shop, for example, but at least then you're getting to engage with customers. You may be resolving some conflicts. You're working as part of a small team. They'll go and get involved in some gliding and speaking to people who are much older that are maybe a little bit grumpy and everything else, and how you manage those people. These are all opportunities to build these competencies that will ultimately help you achieve that dream. And there's so many of them. Was there anything from your career that you've had to sort of unlearn, though? Any sort of bad habits from your rugby career that you think actually that's not been helpful?
The one thing that comes to mind is, sort of, in rugby, we're very used to giving and taking really direct feedback. And it's
Right,
just so normal in rugby that you can come off the pitch and the coach can tell you,
you
"Sure,
sucked.
I thought you were really poor today
Yeah,
at this, and this. Like, I need to see a huge improvement in your tackling, or your line out throwing, or your scrummaging, or whatever it was. And because you didn't play well, you're not playing this week. Just to let you know, I need to see an improvement." And you have to kind of, you learn really quickly when you're younger like that. You maybe go home and you think about it for weeks. When you get a bit older, you think, right, if I want to play again, I need to go and work on this, and they need to see me working on this. So I'm gonna going to work hard. I'm going to do it after training. I'm going to do it in front of the coaches so they know I'm not sulking, and I'm going to get on with it. When you're a leader in a team as well, so I would often be standing at the front of meetings and telling boys that, you know, you're not working hard enough. Like, if we want to be serious and win this game, like, why are we walking here? And like calling people out and very openly doing it, and because that's part of professional sport, and it actually makes what makes teams great, is being able to call each other out and not take things personally. It's a really hard skill. And that's not the same in every job. So you know, it's it was one thing I probably learned a bit at flight school when I was sort of liaising with some of my the guys I was, you know, on the program with, you know, giving them quite direct feedback and actually seeing them take it a bit funny, and I'm a bit like, oh Christ, these guys are 20, and you know, maybe they're not used to the level of you know, feedback. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I know exactly what you're trying to say.
I see it as I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to make you get better. So actually, then it didn't take long for me to be a bit softer with it, and actually, like, okay, I need to think about the language I use, because I'm not addressing an elite sports team anymore. You know, I'm maybe just trying to help people be better. So yeah, definitely being a wee bit softer with my sort of feedback. Maybe just, again, it's I'm not doing it from a bad place. It's just what I was used to in elite sport is very different to everything else.
It is tough though, isn't it? And the again, some parallels between that and, you know, being on a frontline fighter squadron. You've got this, you're at the top of your game, right? In that profession. And certainly the feedback, we call it the power of the debrief. But it was a very direct debrief, like, what were you doing? What was that? You know, you know, what we trained. So what were you thinking? You know, and to the point where you could come out, you know, sobbing. I'm not saying that every time feedback was delivered as well as it could have been, because obviously clearly that's not the case. And sometimes, you know, I'm sure you delivered feedback, I could have done that a bit differently on that day. It is, I mean, certainly and as you'll learn, Stuart, in this next chapter that's coming now with a commercial airline, there's still a lot of feedback. I think it's one of those careers, unlike many careers outside of sports, where there is going to be constant feedback, constant learning, constant professional development. And flying is one of those things. But yes, I can see how the style of feedback might differ. But I say to people as well, you know, if you don't have the ability to accept feedback and to act upon it, then you are untrainable. You know, right. If someone's looking to recruit you or promote you, that's just not going to happen if you're not trainable, because you won't take it. So as much as you might be sat there in that room thinking, that's not quite how I see it, that's not, I don't agree with that, I might be thinking it in my head, but afterwards I'm like, yeah, absolutely, no, I could have done that better. I could have done, because there's always a grain of truth, even if it's like making you feel a bit uncomfortable. There's always a grain of truth somewhere in some feedback, isn't there, that you should be taking. And
it's important to be able to take it, especially as a role model to others. Like, if you're 100%, if you know, there's someone else in your sim or observing your debrief and you're, you know, not accepting it right, then it's sort of, is this the way I can I challenge all my feedback as well? Like, you want to set the example that, you know, you get feedback, you accept it, it's all coming, especially in sport. All you want to do is make the team better. Like, I'm not having to go at you for any other reason than I want the team to win at the weekend, and I think this can make a difference, and I think you can be better. I know you can be better. Like, see, now we're getting into the ways I would use it as a way to motivate. Like, I know you can be so much better. I've seen you do this so well. Like, I need you. Like, how can we get you back to this level? Like, that's the sort of language I'd learned to use. And also, it's important, if you're giving the feedback, that you give the good stuff as well. Like, that's correct. Too many people I've found in the past were sort of very quick to highlight all the negatives. But if someone's doing something, even if it's simple, if they're doing it really well, like, it's worth highlighting, because in rugby and in flying, from my experience to this date, it's, you know, if you can do the simple things really well, you won't go far wrong.
What's been harder than you expected about your flight training, Stuart? I should say, Stuart just finished his flight training, so he's about to enter his first job. We're going to talk about that in a sec. But what has been harder than you thought it would be?
What's been harder?
It's like nothing. It's been easy.
It's not been easy. It's been as I expected. Like, I guess I expected it to be really tough, and it was. The whole everything about it was tough. I mean, the IR, if we break that down, how fast paced that comes, it was tough, and the sort of all the different things that can get thrown at you, the holds. Like, I found the hole's quite tricky, like little things that by the end were fine. But no, I think I just had an expectation that it was all going to be really challenging. I think my biggest frustration is not the right word. The thing I struggled most with was juggling it around family life. So we would be up in the sim at doing our IR flight, and then I would maybe backseat one of my buddies who was doing one, taking notes, learning about that. Then I would come home and I'd pick the kids up from nursery, dinners, bath, bed, clean the house up, and by then it was like 8:30, and I've got maybe 30 minutes to study for tomorrow's flight that I've got, because I'm doing a VOR departure out of Kirkwall or something like that, and I need to plan for that. But I only had half an hour because I knew I'd be up at 5 o'clock the next day. So the biggest challenge was, because if you could give me 3 hours to prepare for a flight, I'd use 3 hours, but I only had half an hour. So it was actually really useful for me to learn about, right, what's really important that's going to make a difference for tomorrow, right? What do I really need? So it helped me actually with time management. We're sort of diversing a wee bit, but sort of planning everything, and then I'd use my 1 hour drive up to the airfield. It's like my chair flying. I'd fly the route, which was really beneficial actually.
None of this sounds very cool,
it.
does it? If you sat there and said to people, "Yeah, what are you doing?" So I'm sat there, I'm taking off, I'm easing back on the stick, I'm now turning. Everyone would go, "I thought pilots were meant to be cool."
I'd like my wife would be phoning me. My wife would be phoning me in the car. I'm like, "I need to go." She was like, "Why?" I was like, "Oh, I'm trying to chair fly a flight at the moment."
Just like
it's really important. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think just the juggling, and I just remember the sheer volume of things. I think I look back at the day of my IR test as a very stressful day, like very stressful. There's so many moving parts to it. Turned up, was in a different aircraft than I thought. It hadn't been fueled up yet, so I couldn't really work out exactly that. I couldn't get a look at how much de-ice fluids. I couldn't do my mass and balance, and there was a lot of moving parts. Yeah, and then you're doing your mass and balance, and the examiner's looking at it, and you're thinking, "Christ, have I made a mistake here?" Because he's looking at this for a while. And you submitted your flight plan. I hope that's gone through. And there's just a lot of stress to it, isn't there? And the day of the test, and there's obviously you're doing a 3-month course that's getting assessed over 2 hours. So
yeah, it's like a driving test on steroids, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing. I know it all went well because it was well prepared, but I just remember that day being very stressful and very relief when I got the handshake that I passed.
Yeah, it is immense pressure. What's been a moment in your flight training where you've gone, this actually feels real now? I can, this is it. Has there been one particular moment?
I think during the APS MCC course that's now a requirement, right. It was a brilliant course. Really enjoyed it, and that's when actually you sit in a slightly bigger simulator. These, DA42 simulators that you're in, they're quite. I mean, I'm quite big, so it was quite narrow and uncomfortable. And but you're in a bigger sim. It feels a bit more like a jet. You're actually using autopilot more, so you're actually understanding about airline operations more, and you're learning how to brief and even taxiing, although it's in a sim, you're doing it and it feels real. And I just remember thinking, like, this is what it's actually going to be like, and I just remember smiling when I look back at those 10 sims we did really fondly, and just actually getting a flavour for what's to come. And I for those that are doing their training and have that coming up, like, really look forward to that, and really make sure you enjoy that, because it's really, really good fun.
It's great, isn't it? I see so many. So for those listeners that maybe don't know what an APS MCC course, an MCC course is a multi-crew cooperation course. So it's the first time that you get to sit, isn't it, with another pilot, essentially in the roles that you would fulfill as a commercial airline pilot, because all the training before that, you're sort of on your own, aren't you, learning how to fly the aeroplane. And then you move into this, now I'm going to have to operate with another pilot. And that's going to bring a whole new set of skills as well, Stuart, because, but again, probably not new to you, but to other people. On any given day, when you go to work, you could be operating with someone completely different. And not just as the physical person is different, but their personality could be very different. And how you manage that in that flight deck environment is really, really important. And, most of the time it's really good fun. Sometimes it can be quite tough because people can be very different personalities, to who you are. But again, you've got all that experience of managing all those different personalities on the team. So I'm sure.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll pay dividends.
Yeah, it definitely will. That's some really exciting news as we head into the spring of this year. What's happening? It's next month, isn't it, Stuart?
Next month, yeah. So I start my first role with major UK airline. I can't wait for it. It's been a long time. Sort of I passed my sort of CPL skills test was the last sort of test I did, and then I applied back in August, and it's been a long wait since then. But yeah, had it confirmed, and
And what
really
aeroplane are you going to
excited
be
for
what? What type of aircraft is it? Boeing or Airbus?
seven Boeing. Yeah, I'm on the Boeing.
Yeah, good man. Boeing
So
team Boeing. Yeah.
yes, yeah. So yeah, I'm on the 737, which is I'm hugely excited about, and just like a chance to fly a jet and take customers on holiday and everything that comes with that. I really can't wait to get stuck in.
You'll be absolutely buzzing. Mind you, thought that the DA-42 cockpit was small. I don't think the 737 cockpit's much bigger.
I know. I have sat in one, and I remember
Yeah.
I remember walking along the flight school doing my air building and getting in my PA-28, which is actually quite spacious.
Yeah.
Looking back, but I remember looking at the DA-42 and thinking, "Oh, I can't wait to fly that! Like a bit more headroom and this, that, and the other." I get in, and I was like, having to crook my neck to see out the windshield.
Only like turning left.
yeah, I know. It was a different experience, but
yeah.
It's sort of it's been such a long time coming, and I think because I've spoke about it for so long that it's been something I want to do, and actually to now do it, really is a dream come true.
Yeah, no surprise to me, Stuart. We've known each other a few years now, and your dedication's been pretty clear to me. We did a little bit of flight deck wingman interview type stuff, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
And that's all part of the process as well, because it's not just about passing your flight training, is it? It's about getting a job as well, which is not probably the hardest bit in some ways.
Yeah, it is, and I'd be keen to sort of touch a little bit on how I did it, because I sort of managed to use a bit of what I learned from rugby days and in preparation wise, and how I eventually sort of managed to land my job. I sort of learned about the common pitfalls that a lot of people make. They maybe, and I've seen it as well. You come out of flight school, and it's almost like a race to see who can apply the quickest into these companies, and
right.
applying everywhere. It never really sat right with me, that whole approach. I found an airline that I knew would work with my lifestyle as a family man, that had values that were similar to mine, and I kind of just went all in with it. The advice I got from so many people was to apply everywhere. You'll get experience doing sims and interviews, and great, but then you might fail a few, but then you'll be better for it. And I see the logic in it. Yeah, so I mean, I got it from a lot of people, and I think a lot of listeners from flight school, they might get the same advice, because they see it as just like, you spread your net wide enough, you'll land something, whereas that's not really what airlines want, from what I would probably guess, and you're spreading yourself thinly over a lot of things. So I just decided to kind of go all in with the company I wanted to work for. Learned everything I could about them before I hit the apply button, because actually when I hit the apply button, things happened pretty quick, and I was very glad to have a huge bank of knowledge. I'd read annual reports, I'd learned everything about the values, I'd learned about experiences I had that I could relate to their values, and my values, and how I could show that I would be an asset to them. We did a practice interview together. I got in touch with you because I thought I might as well make my mistakes with you.
There weren't many actually, Stuart. It was a very, very strong performance. But...
Yeah, well, thanks. But again, it was really good. And there were a few things and that I improved on, and also, but it did give me confidence as well to know that, okay, like I feel ready. I've stacked the odds in my favor here of performing well, and I'm not. I'm not going to be showing anything left field, because we had a really accurate and really productive session together, which was really beneficial, and it just kind of sort of gave me a little practice run of it without having to go down to an assessment and or another assessment or whatever. Anyway, it just that's how I did it. I just stacked the odds in my favor by the way I prepared, found out the common pitfalls people make, and just how do I avoid them, and our session was great. It's making sure I was fully up to speed on the company before I hit the apply button, because they could get in touch with you the next day and ask you for an interview, and there's only so much time you have to prepare.
Yeah, I think we were chatting earlier about pitfalls of sort of I can't remember how we described it, but like sort of rehearsing things as well and expecting things.
Yeah.
You were talking about having techniques and stacking things in your favor, and having techniques to overcome various things. That's something that I actually brought from the military. We used to call it cassettes. I'd have a different cassette for different things. So if I was going to do a certain part of a flight, I know I can't do it all at once. So I go, right, I'm about to go and do, this merge against another airplane. I put my cassette in for doing the merge and how I work my weapon systems. Now I've left the merge. That's all done. I'm now going to go and land back on a boat. So I put my new cassette in on how I'm going to go and land on the ship again. But these are all little basic techniques to do different steps, because things don't always go according to plan, and you've got to have some techniques to fall back on. And something I see candidates doing very frequently, if there are any sort of, aspiring or newly qualified pilots out there, they go into these assessments rehearsing things. They haven't got the raw techniques behind them. So if things don't go how they thought they would go, they just don't have that to fall back on. So what I'm passionate about training people in is having these techniques to fall back on. So no matter what comes your way, you'll deal with it. Because on any given day, as you'll find when you start flying 737 around this summer, you don't know what's going to happen on that flight. You don't know if something left field, as you said, is going to happen. Are we going to have an engine failure? And is that going to mean a diversion to an airfield that we weren't expecting to go to? And then when we get there, that approach isn't available anymore. And, you can't plan that. You haven't got a crystal ball. So you've got to have those techniques to fall back on. The same is true for assessment processes as well.
Yeah, no, that's 100% agree with that. My technique was never to try and figure out what questions I might get asked, but it was to identify some really key stories from my time in rugby around leadership, around decision making, around the competencies that we spoke about. And anyone can find the pilot competencies. I just made sure I think I had about 6 stories that I knew inside out, and there were parts of it that I could relate to those competencies, so that if I got asked about them, I was confident to display it, and it was genuine. It wasn't rehearsed. It was well, it's funny you mentioned leadership. Like, the one thing that really springs to mind is this time, and it's important.
Captaining my national team.
Yeah. Well,
it's a pretty good
funny.
one just to drop that in there, isn't it? Let me tell you about this time I landed on the moon.
One of the questions I started answering, and it was when I was playing for Scotland and we beat England, and I was chatting away, and I just quickly said, is there any Scottish blood on the interview panel? And they all just sort of shook their head. I said, okay, well, maybe just wrap this one up. I think they were all English.
Excellent. Obviously, this has all been going on, and you mentioned earlier you got 3 young boys. So there must have been obviously a huge amount of management on your side to be transitioning away from rugby into flying, doing all your flying training, raising a young family. But I'm sure that a big shout out goes to your family for supporting you as well. Is there anything that you'd like to say about your family and all of this? And how they manage things with you?
Yeah, my wife Natalie has been an absolute star. She was dropping off the kids from nursery, and my wife works full time as well for the NHS, so she's under the pump with her work. But yeah, she's known this has been a burning desire for me for a while, and she's been amazing, and allowing me to, she might have the kids all day, but she knows that I need to do my hour building, and I'd be flying off to Islay or one of the Scottish Isles and having a nice day out, and I need my hours. I need to get my 100 hours.
Get fish and chips in it.
And she's at home with 3 kids. So yeah, no, a huge thanks to her, and also for what's coming, because I know that the first year, especially in the airline world, with line training and things like that, there's going to be some time away from home, and but yeah, it's all part of it. I'm lucky to have an amazing family, and
she's excited about your new career, and
I think she's excited about the holidays as well. Trying to getting away, and she is thrilled, and she's really pleased that I have this other plan. Again, there's a lot of wives and partners of athletes who are more nervous about their partner retiring because they don't know what they're going to do or where the next salary is coming from. And because I've had this planned, and we've got the stability of it coming, we know our sort of future's secure, which is brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. I want to talk in a few minutes about some other little areas that you're showing a real interest in, wanting to develop outside of flying again. Before we do that, Stuart, I just want to touch on a few other questions. And one of them is going to be your winging it question, which is this random question I ask all my guests. But did you say your father played rugby?
Well, he said he did, and I've seen a few pictures of him. He played for Alloa up at his school, so it was not not to an elite standard, I don't think.
Yeah, well, I know someone else who says they played rugby. No, they did play. It was my father-in-law, Jory. He'll be watching this afterwards. He played for Brighton and he played for Hove back in the late 80s, early 90s. And apparently he was pretty good, you know. But it was before it turned professional. I think he was still playing for his first team into his late 40s. And then,
wow, good on him.
he was like, I'm not playing on any team unless it's the first team.
Brilliant. I've got a friend who's gone the other way. He just wants to play for the thirds just to have a bit of fun and be on the team bus.
Yeah, he won't do it. It's just not in his nature. But he's got a few questions for you as well. So from one rugby player to the other. Keep a straight face while I ask these. First one is, why aren't the shorts tighter?
Why aren't they tighter?
Why aren't they tighter? He wants to know that.
Mine were pretty tight. Again, it's so funny because the forwards, if it's all done on waist size, isn't it? So if you've got a big waist, they're the ones that wear the big baggy shorts.
Right.
You'll see some of the backs where they're skinny, tight pants.
You can probably gather these are not serious questions. Why are the balls so pointy? And what's been your favourite touchdown?
Touchdown? Not playing American football.
Shaking aside, he hasn't answered. I've made those up clearly. I'm sorry, Joey. He'll be watching this. He'll kill me next time I see him. Should do that.
Well, you gave it away when you said touchdown. I mean, for someone who might not know about rugby.
Listen, I also know that your nickname is Ram from Rambo. Well, you mentioned that. We'll not go necessarily into the background. So, as you want to tell everyone why they call Rambo, Stuart, is that some? No,
it's not interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll just leave it. It's Ram. I get called Rams, mainly from sort of closer friends, but it's a nickname off a nickname.
So, bearing in mind your nickname being Rambo, this is your winging it question. If you're ready.
Yeah, fire away.
So, if you could spend a day as any action hero, who would it be, and what do you think your mission would be?
Oh, good question. My mission, if I could be a superhero, I can't see past Spider-Man at the moment because my son loves it and he loves Spidey and his amazing friends. So I probably would have to be Spider-Man to keep him happy. My mission, again, I want to do something. Again, I do a lot of things for my oldest son. He's 5 and he's like my best bud.
Oh, that's nice.
What would I do? My mission. Yeah, you know what? Maybe would be a good mission would be he loves obviously like any kid, he loves chocolate, but he loves Easter eggs more than anything else. So maybe just I know, but you see, it's the happiest he ever is. So I don't know, maybe I have to sort of swoop in and use my Spider-Man to do and steal a bunch of Easter eggs or something like that. It's not the greatest answer. I always just try and think about ways I could make Ollie happy, and but yeah, maybe nipping out one evening as Spider-Man and getting him as many chocolate Easter eggs as possible. I'm sure I'd enjoy seeing his face and then be less impressed at how the sugar high he'd be on after that.
It's going to be so cool for your boys, isn't it, growing up, because they of course have no or limited knowledge. I'm guessing now maybe some knowledge of what you're doing now, but all the rugby stuff was predating them being in existence. So they're going to grow up and are going to learn all this stuff about their dad, and then of course you're going to see where they go. I bet it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't have kids, but it must be incredible to see them grow up and learn that about you and see what they turn into.
Yeah, it'll be amazing to see what they fall into. Ollie tells me he wants to be a rugby player and a pilot and a bin man, because he saw the bin he saw the bin men out the front the other day and they were empty the bins, and he said, I think I'd like to do that. I said, you can do whatever you want, buddy. So he wants to be his latest thing is a rugby player, a footballer, a pilot, and a bin man when he's
brilliant older. Why not do all three?
Yeah, there you go.
There are enough hours in the day. I mean, we're pretty busy, but there are enough hours in the day. You're doing some other things as well, though, Stuart. You're not just doing this flying career. So what other avenues are you exploring right now?
This time so I've sort of got my job confirmed back in August and a start date in March. So I've had a bit of time to sort of obviously relax a little bit after a busy year, but I've also managed to start something that I've been really passionate about, which is mentoring. Like we spoke a little bit about it in this podcast and the power that, or certainly the benefit I've had of it throughout my career in professional rugby as well. I kind of have mentored young players. It's kind of part of who I am. Caring for people is a huge part of who I am. And I always took a lot of fulfillment helping the next generation just stay on the right path. I'm now doing that in a more sort of structured way in terms of mentoring, and to develop my own framework I use, which is like a flight path framework, which is ultimately identifying a destination where someone wants to go, with the waypoints along the way, and obviously where we are right now and how are we going to get there, what threats could occur. And a lot of the time in sport, it's around injuries and things like that. But I really enjoy using the sort of aviation model around that to sort of, I don't know, make it a bit more unique to me. So yeah, working with young athletes. I also think in Scotland, we're not a huge country, so I'm passionate about anyone who should make it, that they do make it. And I see too many young athletes drop out the system early up here because they don't quite understand what it takes to achieve great things. So an example would be and this isn't about anyone in particular, but you'll get a lot of young rugby players coming through and they all say they want to play for Scotland. What do you want to do? What's the goal? I want to play for Scotland. Okay, great. Do you understand that there's certain behaviours that come as being a Scotland international? Like, you have to do more. I made the pitfall of not doing more when I was younger, didn't achieve it, realised it, and it happened. Like, do you understand that? Okay, do you understand that there's going to be setbacks? Like, go and talk to me about some of your setbacks. Okay, there could be injuries. Well, how are you going to deal with an injury if it comes up? Because you could miss a key match for your Edinburgh game, and is that going to define you, or how are you going to do it? Okay, so if you get a lower limb injury, there's opportunities to work on your upper body strength, and then just trying to help them frame things and understand about what's coming and what the journey looks like. Because a classic example in rugby, you'll see young guys come through, they're 20 years old, they think they've made it, they don't really work hard, and then they get to like 22, 23, and then one or two things happen. Either they drop out the system, or they kind of get a bit of a rocket that they need, and then they get back on the path. My mentoring is around trying to sort of get rid of those missed years, because I look back at my career and I missed those years, and I think if I'd been a bit more open to what was coming, I think I could have achieved even more. So I like giving back. I also get real fulfillment from it. I love it. And I know you do as well, with, it's part of what you do in inspiring the next generation of pilots. I want to help inspire the next generation of athletes represent Scotland at the world stage. So really enjoy doing that. And I'll hopefully continue to do that as and when time allows in my next role as well.
So have you got a business set up? Is that something that's in the pipeline? Are you planning to?
Yeah,
or is it more informal at this stage?
Yeah, more informal. If people reach out to me and I have the capacity for it, I kind of have that luxury at the moment of picking and choosing. But like, I go back to my old school and do it, and that's brilliant. Again, I just go back. I really enjoy working with the guys at my old school and having that connection with them, and I feel really connected to them, and seeing them sat in the uniform that I used to wear, and explaining that to them, like, I've been sat where you were, I've had a big dream, here's how I did it.
Immensely rewarding.
Really, really rewarding. And I hope at some point to scale it, maybe into a business. It's certainly nothing that I'm looking to make loads of money out of or anything, but it's just something that I'm passionate about, and if it just I just want to make a difference, really.
That's fantastic. So, well, it's going to be, this episode alone is going to be immensely inspirational to so many people, not just those in, hoping to aspire to elite sport or the career of a pilot, but to lots of other people. I think there's so many things here that we've chatted about, and drawing on your experience is going to be incredibly empowering for people. I think it's something like life skills, really, that are not, I don't know whether you necessarily teach them. You just need someone sometimes put your arm around people and say, come on, let's figure out how we can do this. That's, like you say, not everyone's going to be, an astronaut landing on the moon, but a lot of people never really achieve either their true potential or true happiness, really, because they just don't have that support and that guidance and that belief in themselves. I think it's something we should train a lot better at school and things, really.
Resilience is a key one, because it's such an important thing, because that's where, if you don't have resilience, which resilience comes from experiences. Like, you can't just hand someone a plate of resilience and say, there you go, that'll be you sorted. Like, it comes from experiences, and the easy option is always just to, for young athletes who are pursuing it, to just go, I'll just go to uni and go do my freshers week, and that'll be fun, and then I can't fail, and there'll be no stress. But the message I get across is that if you can see it through, it's so worth it. Like, the rewards of performing elite sport at the top level the feeling is amazing, and it is worth it. So it's just trying to make sure people get over that hurdle.
Fantastic. I think that's a great place to stop, Stuart. It's been really, really amazing to chat to you today. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm really, obviously, I can't speak for being proud of your rugby achievements, but obviously admire them greatly. Having worked with you, I'm extremely proud of what you've achieved in your next chapter of your life. I can't wait to see you flying that big jet around. That's going to be incredible. Thank you so much, mate, for taking the time to chat to me today.
No, thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you soon, I'm sure.
Cheers, Stuart.